Hi guys, welcome back to Michelle's Beauty Guide. On today's episode, we are comparing and talking about foundation and concealer, and if you need one, both, or one or the other, whatever it may be. So that is our topic for today. Without further ado, let's get started. So let's talk about the difference first. With foundation, essentially foundation is meant to be used across the entirety of your face. And concealer is meant as a spot treatment or for smaller areas of your face, usually to conceal blemishes. Over the years, I have started to really use BB creams more, or just concealer with a pigmented face powder, and you really can get the same effect as like a semi-coverage foundation with less product. So I really urge you guys to examine your skin, think about what your desired finished result is, what you imagine that to look like, and then go with products to achieve that. So if you do have more blemishes and your skin tone is very uneven and you want something that is like totally mattified and very, very even and concealed, then full coverage may be the best option for you. But like I said, if you have a nice even skin tone and you really don't need to conceal that much, go with a, very light BB cream or just a full coverage concealer with a light powder, and you can achieve the finished look that you are desiring, especially if you are very minimal or low maintenance and you want something that is just quick and easy. Sometimes using less product can really be very beneficial for you. So I'm going to do my demo next, where I will be doing half of my face with foundation, concealer, and powder, and the other half with just concealer and powder. So I have washed my face, I have put moisturizer on. This makeup is leftover from today, so that is just how it's going today. So like I said, I'm gonna do two different routines today. And so I'm gonna start out with my primer. I always use a facial primer. And so I'm just gonna do that all over since I am going to be putting makeup all over my face. But I recommend, if you are wearing a mask all day long, really just focusing on your under eye area if that's a typical problem area for you, and just really not putting makeup all over your face, because it's really important to let your skin breathe. And if you have makeup on and then you're wearing a mask all day, kind of counterproductive. So sleep in a little bit, do a little less makeup. And I already wet my beauty sponge here. This is the Real Techniques like beauty blender. It has this nice pointy end, which is really great for concealer, getting that under eye area or small spots. And then this flatter side, which is really great for just doing your foundation all over your skin. So I'm going to start with more makeup. So I'm going to be actually combining two foundations. I've mentioned this in previous videos. So I'm going to be using these two foundations. This is the Maybelline Fit Me Dewy Smooth in the shade Classic Ivory 120, with the Smashbox Studio Skin 24-Hour Hydra Foundation in the shade, so this is fair, but the undertone is warm olive. So, and that is in the 1.05. So I'm going to start with my slightly darker foundation, the Maybelline Fit Me, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the back of my hand. I really prefer to use the back of my hand and then go on the rest of my face, just so I make sure that I don't get too much makeup. So since I'm only doing half, I'm literally using just like this little bit. And then I'm just gonna do equal parts of my lighter foundation, and that's gonna give me my perfect match. So I'm going to take my flat end of my sponge and I just kind of dab and swirl it around to mix them. And then I'm going to start on this side and just kind of work in like a smearing motion to really just spread the makeup. And then that way I make sure that it's not getting too heavy in one area. And I always like to blend down into my neck. And then I go back in and I dab, and that really just helps to blend. So on this side of my face, this foundation is semi-coverage, so I like my natural skin to be able to breathe through and still be able to be seen a little bit. So my concealer, I'm gonna go in with the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer as well, and this is in the shade Fair. This is the number 10. This is also like a semi-coverage concealer, so it's not super heavy. And I just like to do some dots underneath my eye because that's really my big area that I like to conceal. And then I'm gonna go in with my pointy end, and I just kind of dab with my entire under eye area because that really helps to blend it as I'm applying it. And I really don't go much lower than my dark circles because then that would pull my lighter color down, and that's going to bring that light color, so it's still gonna have that same contrast like it does over here. So really sticking to the area that you're trying to conceal and not dragging it all over your face is gonna be really helpful. All right, and so for this side, I'm just going to be using a translucent powder. So using a translucent powder is great because it's not adding additional pigment. If you need that additional pigment, great, go for a pigmented powder, but I just like to use a translucent since I already have a great match for my skin. So I've been using the Bella Pierre Cosmetics HD Finishing Powder. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this into my cap, and then I'm going to take a flat foundation brush, and I like to use this for my powders because it's just really great at setting things in place. So I'm going to get some product on my brush, tap off the excess, and then I always like to start in the center of my face and work my way out because that makes sure that I'm getting my product on, and then as I move towards the outside of my face, it just really blends out. So I'm just going to dab. So kind of the opposite for my powders than my liquids. I like to dab first and then kind of swipe to blend everything out. And then that swiping really helps to make sure that it's not too heavy. All right, so there is that side of my face. As you can see, I've got nice coverage. It's not too heavy. I still have a little bit of my natural skin shining through, but my dark circles are concealed and everything is just looking nice and even. So on this side of my face, like I said, I'm only going to be using concealer and pigmented powder. So this is another option to get essentially the same coverage. So I'm going to be using the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer in the light number 15 and the Morphe Full Coverage Concealer. This one is in the shade C1.35. So I'm going to be combining these. Like I said, I am a huge fan of combining to get the perfect match. So I'm going to do 3 dots of that and 3 dots of my full coverage. So I'm doing a semi-coverage and a full coverage to kind of get almost a full coverage, but I feel like I'm weird in the sense that I don't like full coverage. I think it just washes me out way too much. So I'm gonna go in with my beauty blender again, and once again, just that dabbing motion. And you could see that I kind of alternated how I applied those colors. I just kind of like made it in a little pattern. So that way when I go in, everything just blends and I don't get real light here or real dark here or vice versa. And since I don't have foundation on this side of my face, you can see you can kind of see where the concealer's gotten a little crazy. So then I'll just take my foundation end and just kind of blend out, and that really helps to keep it from looking messy or too harsh. All right, and so now this side I'm gonna use a pigmented powder. So I'm going to be using the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder in the shade Fair Light. This is the number 10. So I'm just gonna put that in my cap, go back in with my foundation brush, get my product, tap off the excess, and once again, I'm going to start underneath my eye and blend out. And this is where using primer really comes into play, because it adds a little bit of kind of grip for your powder to stick to your face, and so you feel like you're not wasting any product. So I just kind of dab, and then I'll go back in and smear, or swipe, I should say. All right, and then last step is always going to be setting spray. I highly recommend using a setting spray to keep your makeup in place all day long, and it's just super refreshing. I feel like personally, you can never use too much of this. I use like a million sprays of this throughout my makeup routine. So I'm going to be using the Maybelline New York Lasting Fix. This is a matte finish setting spray with 16-hour wear, and I just literally mist obnoxiously all over my face. And then I just kind of fan it to dry it. So if you're gonna be putting makeup on after this, I really recommend letting it dry first, because if you're using a powder over top of setting spray, sometimes if it's too wet, you're gonna get a little splotchy, and we don't want that. So as you guys can see, I did more makeup on this side, less on this side, but essentially, when you look at my skin, there's not like a day and night difference. So if you have a beautiful, even complexion, you have clear skin, I really urge you to just do some concealer and some powder instead of using full coverage concealer, because what full coverage does is it does cover all of those blemishes and everything like that, and really leaves you with a one-tone skin tone. But it also washes out your natural color, so it ends up being a little bit more work to add that color back in with contouring and blush and highlighter, whatever it may be. So if you want something a little more natural, a little more light and refreshing, just a little bit of concealer and some powder, and you're good to go. So I hope this really helped you guys out and gave you a nice visual that sometimes less really can be more. All right, guys, so there you have it. That was just a quick little demo to show you how coverage can be very similar with using different products. And I hope this really helped to give you a visual and maybe tweak your makeup routine in order to spend less time on your makeup and more time enjoying your beautiful life. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and I will see you next week on Michelle's Beauty Guide.